I had a very interesting dialogue with the ChatGPT. First, I talked about my three books and how it can relate to how the AI functions, as well as how our brain functions. Also, communicating the way that idea generation and awakening, enlightenment may happen. At the end, it's very simple, so let me try it. By the way, I want to put the dialogue I had with ChatGPT in description, so it may be more precise, but I thought I'll just give an overview. We got the brain to use, and how to use is a fairly big question, and if we abuse it or misuse it, we have pain. So it's as if to find a secure passage to live life so that we don't fail. But if we fail, we learn the lesson. And whatever the process and path we may take, my view is like a tree. There's a root may be spreading out, but from there the energy pumps up through the trunk and then into different branches. So the branches can be related to work, hobby, relationship, health, finance, or whatever you call it. And there may be many branches spreading out. So depending upon where you are, if you think about the AI and the neural circuit, how things happen, and then picture the image of what's in the brain, you may see that analogy of the tree root, energy pumping up, and identifying the area for focus and get into address some issues because there's a pain. The brain is to help ease the pain, and I think that makes sense. Or the brain can be used to achieve the happiness, but abusing it like an egocentric way, you get penalized. So, like Buddhism, Zen, and Shin Buddhism, I'm more familiar with, but in Christianity too, to a degree. But Christianity goes from the division, separation from the God and you. So the approach is a bit different, but if I can use my view of the Buddha's enlightenment and the wise people's leaving so much sutras. I may talk about the Kegon Sutra of Avatamsaka Sutra, which I mentioned in my book called The Results from the Heart, where the Dalai Lama gave a comment. Use the brain, but at the same time, listen to your heart and live with the mission. That's the main message. And when you use the brain, the critical thing is to listen to your heart. In other words, the tree branches was paying attention to something, maybe the wind is shifting or whatever, temperature is going high or drier or some pain. So it is sending information to everywhere, neural circuit and also through the body to see, do something. And if we are not careful, that do something is egocentric, therefore you may misjudge because you may not look at the picture from not just your point of view, but other people's point of view. And that's not easy, but that's the whole point of Buddhism. It sounds like a religion, but there's a scientific element to it. That's what I want to come back to. That there's a way of this energy flow, distribution, pain, and overcoming the pain so that you can be happy. So that's one tree, but one tree is connected to other trees because of the customer-supply relationship. You are one tree, let's say, and there's another tree next to you and here and there. So there's a invisible information connection going back and forth when you have the conversation. So you look at the picture from your point of view, what to do. But often we think it's meaningful to have someone's opinion, like you work with a ChatGPT or Bard to ask the question, have a dialogue. And that's what I said I did in relation to this. So back to the overall picture. In thermodynamics, second law is about order versus disorder, pointing the entropy. It's going to go up, and that is the direction of orderliness, go back to the disorderliness. But what I'm saying is, wait a minute, that's thermodynamics, but if that entropy growing, it's compensated by your being creative because you are living and organizing yourself. So instead of the disorder, you are creating a life and the way to live, and that's opposite of the entropy's law. So what I shared with the ChatGPT is that we need to look at this and as if the whole thing may need to be balanced out. If there's an increase, there could be a decrease of entropy. In other words, if there's a disorganization, somehow the universe have a way to bring out us and all the species, living being, out of nowhere, just by connecting the atoms and in whatever way they did it. It's a magic. I'm just fascinated to just think about the fact that I'm existing here and talking to you, if you're listening or communicating. And that's a tree versus tree discussion that I was talking about. And if there's that spark in that communication, it's going back to this spark being the creative energy. Idea. I was beating myself, but one way to get rid of it is to have a calm and quiet mind so that I can see things better, for example, in the samadhi, meditation. And if you're in that space, then you may access the information down deep. That's deep learning in AI analogy that in us we may use only shallow part. The problem is that the shallow, so that the egotistical part only. Or money is the only way for happiness. Some fixed notion and caught up in the mind. And in the other video I mentioned about the bird maybe in the cage, but the door is open. Meaning that your confined way of thinking can be expanded. That's the analogy of the tree branches, not looking at his own branch, but see the connection to the root, the heart, the energy, how it comes. And by communicating with others, that, okay, next branch has more nutrition coming and growing in this direction, and this branch is going down this direction because it's dryness and suffering. And there's a way, the neural linkage, kind of a communication going back and forth, as much as you see the MRI, the brain image is this neuron going every which direction. So the question is, it's okay to go every which direction, but there has to be a meaningful way. And that's how the AI is going through this deep learning and artificial general intelligence, accumulating all the wisdom, knowledge, database, not just in the shallow mindedness, but from all deep and billions of reference points to see what may be synthesized to come up with a unique creative idea. So that's the idea of going against entropy as living being. And the AI, AGI, is to do it not just by one person and his memory and the database, but accumulating tons of people, many people's memory and the writings and so forth. So that by having that, as if the tree is gathered together and go deep learning, so that you have the energy wanting to express itself, but AI can find the connection by sort of try and error. And it's a samadhi process of AI, I want to call it. I mentioned about the Shila Samadhi Panya. The basis of the Buddhism is to do the right conduct there's rational thinking and all that, and then have a samadhi, meaning a calm and quiet mind, not just jumping around and using the brain as you wish, but rather to see, especially when we have a suffering. And that suffering is the entropy's law telling us that you're not doing the right thing. So it's a pain. So how do you go through the pain? That's the question. And we can use ChatGPT as a co-pilot or bot, the same thing. I'm playing both of those AIs and see the difference, and it's interesting to see. And sometimes I go back and forth to see how they can understand what I'm talking about. Whatever the case is, we can benefit from huge amount of data, the wise people's expression. So when I was talking back to this idea of me having a dialogue with the chat GPT, I was going through the entropy law and creativity going against it. And therefore, there's a potential that the creative force that we have, living being, is exhibiting the way that the entropy law can be balanced out, because it's going to the opposite direction of the entropy's law, not disorganization, but organization. So how that may be understood or expressed in formula, I don't know. But my intuition is that, and whenever we come up with the idea, we feel it, right? That you have this excitement in your body. When you're happy, you don't actually feel happy in the brain. Maybe there's dopamine, this and that, and some of that. But in my case, again, this is a brain and body, it's connected, not truncated. The body has the relationship and the transparency within myself. It's like awakening that the information can go down deep and connect to. That's why I say use the brain and listen to your heart, the deep learning, and optimize, use the data out there from the memory. And AI is doing the same thing, but Buddha's enlightenment is essentially to go through the process all the way through. So it's not just idea generation, but awakening and then enlightenment to understand the law of universe. So that my view is that pain is natural for people to go through because there's entropy's law playing and we have this suffering. But if we observe it as much as we have this ability to have been born on the earth and living, that creativity can go against the law of entropy and have fun. Do what you really like, and that's the secret of having fun, right? Because you feel there's something in there. Tree branches thinking. We may not see it, but that's what I see, that each branch, each flower coming up with the shape and whatever they produce is what I call myo, amazement in Japanese. That's one of the four wisdom I talked about in different videos, which is to express what the universe wants through us, to go over the law of entropy as living being. And the secret of that is like a Shila Samadhi Panya. As much as the kids are born and creative, running around asking questions, challenging, never stopping. Not like adults and old men. I'm an old man at 75. But still not losing the childlikeness of inquisitiveness and playfulness, which is to be in the samadhi, into the zone.